Welcome back.
Hey.
So Olivia's been gone for a week.
Yes.
And she came back and you made sure to bring something back. What'd you bring back?
A casserole dish.
Why'd you bring home a casserole
Someone
dish?
can make me food. Hello and welcome to the Resilient Lineage podcast, where we reflect on the past, anticipate the future, and discover what God is up to today. My name's Olivia.
And I'm Milo, and Olivia's been gone. You've been living out of the house now
for like 5 days.
5 days. And she's already coming home for a home-cooked meal.
Hey, that's a good reason to come back.
It is a good reason
to
come back.
There could be a lot of other reasons that...
Well, I mean, the good thing, like, you're also fortunate to have a mom who's a good cook.
Yeah, who's extremely generous.
Yeah, it's very generous. I keep having to tell her, hey, we're already practicing generosity here towards our daughter. We don't need to practice more.
Sure you do. Show compassion, Dad. For those of you who don't know, I go to a university that does not have a food plan. So you have to go to the grocery store and get your own groceries. So it can get exhausting cooking and making food.
This is so exhausting.
It's different, okay, from you, like, from living at home when your mom makes food all the time.
Yeah, no, I know.
And treats us.
I know.
So then it's like, now I'm stepping into that role.
I leave on Tuesday, and I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you
and
are.
And there's no food plan where I'm going.
How many days are you gone?
I don't know, 10?
11? Okay, but like once you get going.
What do you mean once I get going?
You're not, okay, you're going to Duke University.
Yeah.
And you're like going to be gone for like 10 days to kind of get like dropped in.
Yeah, I do an intensive and then I come back.
Yeah, then you come back and then your mom will cook for you again.
I know. Which is great.
That was just like an awkward laugh. It is great. So it's also amazing when your mom texts you like, hey, can you bring a casserole dish so I can make you food?
Oh, so this was mom's idea.
Mom's idea. Oh. I didn't even think to do this. Well, she asked me, hey.
So generous.
I actually had to like pause her generosity because she wanted me to bring back 2, but I was already using one for other food I made.
Oh, got it.
So she was going to make me double portions.
Okay.
But this is not what that episode's about.
Well, it kind of is.
Sure.
Because what we wanted to discuss, I saw Olivia. Well, actually, what ended up happening, kind of cards face up. Here we go. Like what ended up happening is we recorded some podcasts and realized we didn't record enough because I forgot I was going to be out of state and not available to record one. So I was like, hey, when can you come home so we can record another podcast? Mm-hmm. And so I said, in fact, let's do this. Let's just talk about what are some 3 things you've been learning over the last 5 days, which doesn't sound like a lot.
It doesn't.
However, it's been a very significant 5 days because you've been gone. You've been having to figure out a bunch of different things. You've got new roommates. You're having to cook on your own, like we were just discussing. You're used to your private space. You really don't have private space now, in light of the way your room is laid out. Mm-hmm. And so, kind of wanted to talk about like what are you learning? Because one of the things that I think is valuable in times of transition, because it introduces change. Transitions introduce change that oftentimes we've intentionally avoided. Right. Or just never had the opportunity to be exposed to it. And as a result, it forces things out of our soul that would otherwise not be there. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about 3 things Olivia's been learning. We should have said 5 things over 5 days, but we'll do 3.
Yeah, I couldn't even figure out the last point.
We'll do 3. I helped you wordsmith the last point, but we'll do 3. So 3 things that you've been learning over the last few days, kind of being out on your own and things. And I think this will be encouraging to some folks because we kind of want to normalize that this is just, hey, this is what happens. This is part of going through these sort of transitions. So with that said, you want to walk us through these? Because these are your notes.
They are.
This is Olivia's life experience these days.
So my first thought, the realization that happened this week was learn to share your gifts where God has you. And that's easy to say. It makes sense. Like, where God, whatever season God has you in, like, he's going to equip you and prepare you for the things he has prepared for you. But it's kind of tricky with my situation because I'm only 25 minutes from home. So in me, like, I want to invest all my personal time with my existing friendships and just constantly feed into that. Which then
lean back into it
because it's like those people actually know me, and I love my roommates. Don't get me wrong. They're great. I haven't had any like beef or like issues. Yeah. But like, we're pretty like mellow together. I mean, if you know me personally, I'm probably not like most mellow person, but, we're kind of stick to our own stuff. So like when we're isolated and do our own thing, or we kind of claim a different part of the room, it's really easy to be like, oh, I'm going to call this person. Oh, I'm going to contact that person because these people want to invest back into me versus, someone who moves, like one of my roommates moved up here from Florida. So she has to make relationships here.
Yeah. She doesn't have, she can't run back home 25 minutes away.
I am right now. But one of the things, even, this kind of applies, but in service today, I went to church and anyway, let me like flip to the actual chapter and not just read something goofy. So in James chapter 4, verse 3, it says, when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. And that kind of like last part where the Lord wants me to spend my time and energy and personal stuff with the people that are around me right now. So if it's like after school, maybe that's my opportunity to invest in my roommates versus call someone or call a friend or phone a friend 25 minutes away because that's the easy thing to do. So the Lord's definitely had that heavy on my heart because when I'm busy talking to other people, then I'm missing out on, okay, what are my roommates doing? Are my roommates actually in our like neighbors? Because we live in like a hall where there's like 25 other dorms. So it's like you're on the phone with someone, but then you hear like conversations and I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm missing an opportunity out there to get to know other people. But I'm in here because I'm talking to people that actually know me. And I'm not taking the steps for other people to know me too.
I think there's always the tension of leveraging the familiar because you can take fast steps, right? Yeah. So anytime you move into a space, at least the way, we kind of organize ourselves as a family because we move around a lot. Mm-hmm. We figure out, okay, what's going to go in what room, what space is going to go in what space. In fact, like you moved out that day.
I'm not even joking. Like I literally moved out and then my parents were like, okay, we're going to move your room around. So we're currently filming in my bedroom.
We've changed our podcast location to your bedroom. Mm-hmm. Or as I like to say, guest room number 2.
You're the only one laughing at that. Am I a guest now?
Welcome. Glad to have you here. No, but it like, and I'm sure you're starting to, you've moved into this new dorm space. You try to put things in places that you'll frequent regularly so that it becomes familiar, so that where's that thing? I don't have to think about where that thing is because I know it's there. And I take it from there and I put it back there. We organize our closets in a certain way, the way we have our cars. Like there's all of these things we do to create familiarity around ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And by doing that, we actually, one of the reasons why we choose to do something like that is because it frees up bandwidth in our thinking. Mm-hmm. Like if it's familiar, like in our house, there's a place we put the keys. The reason why we have a place to put the keys is so that we don't have to think about where the keys are. Now, here's what happens, though, is the minute we don't put our keys there, what do we end up spending our time doing?
Finding our keys.
We're scrambling. Where'd they go? What happened? Where could they be? And so by doing that, doing something familiar, you're able to give your attention to other things. So, leaning into familiar isn't bad in and of itself, But when you're stepping into something new, particularly if it's a new season that the Lord is moving you into, familiarity actually becomes a means of escape, not a means of pressing into what God has next for you. And I think that's a tension a lot of people feel in their lives is, they're hesitant to press into what God has next because, I like this kind of church because they sing these kind of songs, because I know the people here. I don't want to travel beyond these boundaries. I want to revisit these places because of the familiarity of it all. And I think if there's anything that the Lord wants to do in our lives is cultivate a dependence upon Him. And one of the ways He'll do that is to break you of familiarity, so that your dependence isn't upon the things of the world to generate familiarity, or the nuances of a community or traditions of a particular place to facilitate familiarity. What He wants you to be confident in is His character and who He is and how He wants to draw you out. Now, you put this within the context of learning to share your gifts.
Yeah.
So, is there a specific example you have in mind, or that's a very
I do
tailored?
When given, actually, I'm not even going to say this the way I was about to say it. I'm probably, if you get to know me, I can be a pretty encouraging person. So I like to hype people up, but I like to hype people up that I know. And it's kind of awkward, especially with my roommate. She's super sweet. I love her to pieces. But we've only known each other 5 days. And now we're sharing a space. And so in that sense, you kind of want to be vulnerable, but then it's how vulnerable do I want to get with these people? Because I don't know who they are.
And they don't know who you are.
And they don't know who you are. So it's easy to not press into, everything that the Lord has gifted me with, words of encouragement, comfort, compassion. I'm kind of funny, not gonna lie.
You do think so?
Okay. Okay, maybe that's just me. But it's
no, you do bring a good energy into the room, right? You bring that kind of high energy, high encouragement. We're gonna have a good time. This is gonna be fun. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, right? Yeah,
and especially meeting a person for the first time, you kind of want to match their energy first. You don't want to step into a room you've never been in, or step into a new environment and be this is what we're gonna do.
Well, but some people do that.
Some people,
yeah.
I don't.
But why?
It depends on the environment. Church, yeah, sure, because I'm confident in my faith.
Yeah, but you
more confident.
Yeah, but you weren't like that the first day we attended this church.
That's true,
right? So generally speaking, what I would say is what you're highlighting, that's a skill. One, and it's a skill that is generally developed because people have had to learn to transition a significant amount of times over time. And so when you come into a new space, you're assessing the space because, like you said, you want to match what's there, not be an anomaly that's too low or too high.
Yeah.
And because then you're real quick, you're not, you could generate untrustworthiness. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, having said that, if you're known by that community, but you might not know that community, it's a totally different scenario. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when I come into there's been times I've been invited to preach at a place because I know the pastor, usually I know the pastor. And so when I come there, I don't know anybody, but maybe they've become familiar with me. They've heard a podcast or they've seen me preach somewhere or something like that. And so I need to bring an energy. I need to bring an excitement and a focus and almost a presence. Yeah. Not because I'm somebody. It's not about that at all, as much as it is because to serve that moment with the gifts and talents that I have is to lead in that kind of capacity. I think what you're talking about, though, is that when you're entering into this space where everybody's new to everybody, and you're all freshmen, so everybody's new to the regent in this community and things like that, figuring out how do I one, and I like your observation. One, learn to share your gifts, but one, you have to know what your gifts are. You have to know what you're even bringing into the situation.
Yeah.
Two, once you know what your gifts are, like you learn, like you're not bringing these gifts. The Lord is bringing these gifts into the space through you.
And he's going to give you the opportunities to use them.
And that's the third piece. Yeah, is he's going to cultivate the moments for those things to be leveraged. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So again, like what I said, like learn to do that where God has you. Because again, it's really easy for me to just be like, I'm going to go over here. I cooked dinner. It's over there. I'm going to go in my room. Have a great night. And like kind of like isolate yourself and then go catch up with all your old friends. And like part of that can be like nice that you want to keep those friendships lasting.
Sure.
But it can take away from the opportunities that the Lord has for you. Like that, I don't even know what opportunities I could have had. You know what I mean? If I hadn't.
Yeah. And I think too, like you're aware of it because you've moved out and you've moved in with these new people and things. But this is a principle that scales down all the way to, I've got to go to the DMV and wait to get some paperwork done. Well, in that space, in that moment with the people around me, there's opportunity to bring the kingdom of God into that moment, to practice patience, to be one of those customers or clients that demonstrates love and compassion and care and concern, not frustration and impatience. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm entitled, and you said to be here at 12:15, and it's 12:15, and how am I not being seen yet? Like I think it's easy people to go like, oh yeah, that's so great that she's thinking that way because she's in this new environment. It's like, okay, fine, but how do we think that way in every moment that we find ourselves in? Like we kind of talked about at the top. These moments reveal the necessity for these things to always be present in our lives. But these kind of moments of transition kind of expose the lesson in a fresh and new way. Okay, second one.
Cool. So the second one, actually, it just says, learn to live with the end in mind. And
do you know where that comes from?
It's from a book.
It is.
Healthy.
No.
Something with habits.
Yes,
maybe not. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. I don't read books, but it was.
Said the girl going to university.
But, hey, be praying, guys. No, so I say that because when we were in one of our sessions this week of like welcome week and getting everyone kind of acclimated to the environment that Regent has, they had a panel up there of professors, and so one of them was asked, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And he like said two. This is his second one, like the serious one. His first one was it's actually really funny. He said, make mistakes with other people's money. And we were all like, okay, like that really can't apply to like any one of us. But then he said, learn to live with the end in mind. And it came from a book. But I know it was about habits.
So it comes from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And this is what he meant by it. To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now, and so that the steps you take are always in the right direction.
Yep. And I think especially with college, like I'm getting my degree in marketing. To do with that, like, and a minor in biblical studies. Well, technically Christianity and culture. But with that, like I want to go into ministry. And however the Lord wants me to do that. But like that's what I know. I know that I want to graduate with this degree so I can then work and start a career or something.
I'm so excited about the marketing prowess you're going to bring to this podcast.
It's gonna be so sick.
It's gonna be
like 10 times better than, maybe more than that. It's gonna
10
be
times.
100 times. Better than
through the roof.
You're gonna be impressed, Dad.
Oh, I listen.
He's impressed if I just make one post.
Impress me. Please impress me. I want to be impressed.
Okay.
I'm excited. No, I mean, I think that you getting those degrees very much plays to a lot of your strengths and interests anyway. Like you like to think through ways of here's where people are at, here's the situation they find themselves in, here's what, and and I do think you have that heart for ministry. Here's what God wants to accomplish in people's hearts and through their lives. And so how do we connect those dots? How do we do that with a marketing mentality, or in even like culture and religion, like understanding where culture's at and being able to know, it's good.
I feel like I have entrepreneurship in my blood.
You do. Well, you definitely do. I know. Yeah. And we got that runs deep on both sides of our family. So, okay. So beginning with the end in mind, one time I heard somebody describe that as like, every time somebody goes to put a puzzle together, what do they always have in front of them?
Do the edges first.
Well, they do
or
the
sort
edges,
them.
Before they even sort them. What do you always have up present in front of you?
The image.
Yeah, the image. The thing you're trying to build is the thing you keep in front of you. Yeah. And I think getting clarity on what that is, and this is where I would encourage you over time. It doesn't have to be, immediately out of the gate. Like right now, it's begin with the end in mind, get the degree. Okay. But is it more than just getting the degree, right? What is that vision the Lord wants to be cultivating in your life, that the degree becomes a means to that end? Does that make sense? So I'm not passing this test or finishing this paper or working on this project just so I can get a degree. I'm doing these things because this is the type of ministry, or this is the way God is calling me to express his kingdom in our lives. And that's I've been doing a lot of pre-reading for several of the courses that I'm taking. And one of the things that I've been kind of mindful of, because there's some stuff I'm reading, I'm kind of going like, I don't know if I agree with that. But then I'm having to investigate, okay, why don't I agree with that? What is the vision that the Lord is putting upon my heart? Or what are some of the things, my non-negotiables? I'm going to kind of draw my line in the sand and say like, no, I'm not going to really fudge on those things. But doesn't mean I can't have a conversation. Doesn't mean I can't understand where people are coming from. So like, the objective is more like when you have that end in mind, you kind of have greater clarity to know what to focus on more than just, and what doesn't matter.
That's true.
All of a sudden it's like, well, what about this? It's like, I don't really care. You should care. No, I don't. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not, because I don't have to care about that to finish this puzzle. Do you know what because I started this with that in mind, so I don't have to really worry about all this to be able to get to that destination.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And again, like that's one of those things where it's like, okay, what is the Lord? What gifts does he want me to highlight in this moment? Or, well, okay, that too. But when you have the end in mind, it allows you to not like focus so specific on a certain thing or a certain trial right in front of your face. Like I'd like say back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, like Isaiah 43 verses 18 through 22. And it talks about like there being a path in the wilderness and a stream in the wasteland, and how you can kind of look at your upcoming trial and be like, it's only going to be better on the other side. But it's like, it might be, but there's a path in it and the stream in it that's the direction the Lord needs you to go. And when you have that in mind, like, okay, at the end of the day, like after this season passes, like I hope to be closer to God and have a more meaningful relationship with him and not get so hung up on, okay, I'm going down the wilderness. Like I need to like be prepared for everything and start overthinking the situation or underthinking the situation. We're not quite prepared for what's going on when the Lord's just kind of like, I just call you to be obedient right now.
Yeah.
And
which leads to your third point.
Yeah. Look at us.
Hey.
Look at us.
Nice segue.
You're welcome.
You're pro.
Yeah, I am. Anyway, the third point is learn to walk in daily obedience and resist the temptation to drive an agenda. But you added the last part. I started it.
Well, you had something else in there, and
I couldn't explain it.
You couldn't explain it. And so you were like, I think I knew what you meant, and so we kind of wordsmithed that last part. But let's focus on the first part. So learn to walk in daily obedience. Why does that feel fresh to you right now?
I think also if you okay, when you walk, let me like clear my thoughts real quick. When you step into a different trial or something that's new or a big change that's going on in your life, you don't know what the next hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, the next day, the next week could look like because you've never really navigated it before.
Yeah,
versus,
you don't have your routines established
versus
yet.
like, me going in high school, like all high school kind of like felt the same. Like I just came home and procrastinated, had dinner, and then procrastinated more, and then like didn't do
What's on the agenda today? More procrastination.
For real. I'm going to go pet the cat. I'm going to go do this. Do you need anything from the store? I'm going to go get gas. I'm going to go to youth group. I'm not using youth group as a way I procrastinated. I just waited.
Are you sure you didn't? Oh, okay.
Anyway.
I suppose there's worse things people have done.
That's true.
Than use the church for their own selfish endeavors.
So when you walk in daily obedience,
Make sure you're talking into the mic. You're talking past it.
so when you're walking, so daily obedience is a decision you can make.
Yeah.
And it's better if you start your day off with it. I'd say I'm a much happier person or a more fulfilled person in the morning if I am in the Word or doing something that involves God and having a personal and private time with Him. Then like, okay, I'm just going to sleep in. I'll watch the cartoons while I eat breakfast and then I'll like go to class. Cause then that can just stir up that will change your heart posture towards the day. Whether it be spiritual or not. But when you have daily obedience and like set that routine, set that like drive, like regardless, like no compromises, like this is what I'm doing every morning. It starts as devotion, desire. Oh, no, dedication, devotion, desire. That's how it goes. Where it's like, okay, here's my plan. Now I'm going to be dedicated to it, whether you like it or not. Like, it's kind of like going to the gym, at the very beginning. I mean, you can attest to this. At the very beginning, it can, not to call you out, but like, it can kind of be.
You're kind of hard though, but that's okay. Keep going. It's exciting. It's new. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It can not be fun at times.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, I'm halfway through all my reps and I got to keep going. And then it turns into a devotion. Like, okay, now like it's not a dedicate. Like now this is like the rhythm, but then it will lead to a desire where you don't want to ever stop.
Yeah. Or and I think sometimes with that, because you also start to see the fruit of it, right? You have to stay with some things long enough that you begin to look back and go like, oh, now I'm experiencing the benefit of what I did 3 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 3 years ago, however long back you can go. You can like, wow, because I did that back there, I'm experiencing that fruit today, which then makes it, I'm going to do it today because I'm enjoying the benefits of it. I'm not enjoying the benefits of it today. I'm actually enjoying the benefits of it from 3 months ago. But I'm doing it today. It's that delayed gratification piece that I'm going to push off my gratification. But gratification does come. Like, and that's not there's nothing wrong with being, having, God gives us these desires. That's not a wrong thing. But am I willing to kind of like walk down that path? Mm-hmm. And it's, to be honest with you, on the front end of change is when it's the easiest to start establishing new routines. That's the opportunity that is presented to us.
Like, especially like this week, like has just been welcome week. Like I have not had any classes. I think we would all be stressed out if they were like, we're going to move you in on Thursday. You get Friday and Saturday kind of yourself, Sunday, and then we're going to start classes Monday. Like they had us move in Tuesday.
Yeah. And then have been walking you through some orientation stuff.
Yeah. And like expectations. But then also gives you time to kind of like bond with the people around you and get to know like the people in your hall. Even today we had a meeting about hall rules and room rules by our RA for an hour and a half, which was great. Very informative.
Sounds exciting.
There's some contraband I have that I didn't know were contraband.
Ooh, what do you got?
An extension cord.
Oh, you're not supposed to have extension cords?
You can't power them off like a power strip. So then in my mind, I'll just get a bunch of power strips and then like power strip them together. And then that was my thought. And then 2 seconds later, she's like, you also can't connect power strips.
Yeah, you can't.
So I'm like,
how
am I supposed to get my iPhone charger to my bed? I'm on a bunk bed. It's okay. It's okay. We all kind of like went in our rooms and we're like, half of the stuff we brought is contraband. Let's just hide it. Yeah. Put some of it in the dishwasher, not turn it on. So when we have room inspections.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like hiding. It's just what's overstepping?
Yeah.
Where's the line? Let's tow it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, the second part.
So, second part, get rid of extension cords.
Okay.
Is that where we're at? I don't see that in the notes.
Learn to walk in daily obedience, and then...
Oh, and then resist the temptation to drive an agenda.
That's ironic.
My agenda is to not have to get out of bed to turn my phone off. That's kind of the point.
Sound bad.
Right, but I mean, that's kind of the point, right? It's like, why is that such an obstacle? It's because how am I supposed to charge my phone? Well, why is your phone up in your bed? Because that's where my alarm goes off. Well, why would your alarm? Because then I can't hit snooze if it's down. If I get out of bed.
I don't hit snooze. I just have 15 alarms.
Why do you have 15 alarms?
Because
you turn them off and then another
one goes on. But it's a different sound.
That's practically snooze.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
You know what's really, it's if I miss the stop button and then I hit snooze, I'm like, I just heard this alarm.
Oh, and then you know what
and then I turn off, and then the next minute, it's like my actual other alarm.
Oh, I see.
Someone told me
you could do?
Just set a regular alarm.
Just get up the first time.
Like, that's a choice. Maybe that should be my like goal for this week.
Okay,
have like an alarm I've never heard before, so it like startles me.
Oh wait, yeah, but then it'll startle everybody in your room.
That's valid.
Yeah. Okay, so learn to walk in daily obedience and resist the temptation to drive an agenda. So why is it wrong to drive agendas, do you think?
I mean, I think you should have like...
Do you think it is wrong?
I think the keyword's drive. I think it's fine to have an agenda.
Yeah. But
then constantly just rely on, okay, here's my to-do list. Now I'm going to get all of these done at these times. Because then you're not taking in consideration. It's like, okay, if I have to be somewhere at 5:30, but traffic's terrible and it's like an hour in traffic, like that screws my agenda, because I was trying to drive it all at the same time. But
what I find too is when I'm shaping my day to be driven by an agenda, I find myself it's harder for me to focus on people because I'm focusing on a task. So I kind of have that laser focus of, hey, listen, I'm just in here to buy this thing and get out of here. I'm not interested in making small talk. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's like you don't see Jesus operating that way throughout the Gospels. Anybody spent time with the Father first thing in the morning, which I think is the kind of the sort of pure, it's kind of the cleanser to kind of wash out. And again, nothing wrong with having a list of things you're trying to get done. Nothing wrong with being disciplined. But is that subservient to walking in the obedience that God has for you? So God is not going to call you to practice impatience to get a task done. He's not going to call you to not love someone well so that you can make sure you're on time, which this applies to
anything.
Yeah. I mean, how's your driving? Do you get angry? I mean, you've seen me get angry in the car.
I think I get it from you.
Angry with people in the car? That's not a good thing.
It's not.
Yeah. I have a tendency to yell at people sometimes. I don't like it when people are idiots. I know I've been an idiot. So, and it's you probably
that's
coming out of more.
That's a bold statement.
But I mean, in some ways, where does that come from, right? It's there's this part of me that I'm not focused in the right area. And
I also think that has to do with like expectations. Unfulfilled expectations gets you. I think when you set an agenda for like a specific day, whether it be like fun or not, like, you might be spending a day at Disneyland and have like this whole thing. We're going to get all these rides done. And these are the times we're going to get the Genie Pass. I don't even know what it's called anymore.
Yeah, but that's not a thing anymore. They got rid of that.
Oh.
They brought back Lightning Lane.
Lightning Lane? What was it, Fast Passes back in the day?
It was Fast Pass.
Disney history. Anyway, like there can be fun stuff and agendas that you want to plan out because you want to make the most of the day.
Yeah.
But then there's other days you kind of just frustrated with the world and you're like, I just want a day where I can have everything my way.
Yeah.
And then that kind of just makes you have a very selfish day.
Well, yeah, and I think it what it does is it sets the world in a position to fail. And we think we need, and this is the thing that's like, it just drives me bananas. There's all this like, I just need some me time. I need to do some self-care. And I'm all about like, hey, practice spiritual health, practice good mental health, practice good physical health. Like we need to do those things. But I think people think like some people are pretty soft spiritually, physically, mentally. Right. And it's like, I don't think you need more comfort. Probably what you need is less, which sounds really cruel. Right. I'm not trying to be mean or harsh or anything, but like what you don't need is more pampering right now. What you need is you need to get kind of, banged around a little bit because it reveals things. The reason why you're really upset and angry right now is because there's anger in your heart. And you need to repent of that. And that is not about you removing you from an quote unquote unsafe situation. And I'm not saying if people are in unsafe situations, obviously
they shouldn't stay in it.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking about when people feel, that the world has to cater to their emotional fragility. Like, no, there's alternative paths than to thinking that the world owes you something. The world doesn't owe you anything. Lord God doesn't owe you anything. In fact, guess what? You owe God.
It's true.
Right? So there's this kind of worldview in all of these things that, has to get worked out, which that's what you're learning.
Yeah.
Which is great.
In just 5 days.
In 5 whole days.
I start classes tomorrow.
What's your first class?
Intro. Well, technically I have one online, so I could probably call that one my first one, but that's the making of the Christian mind.
That sounds good.
That every freshman has to take. So I asked one person and they said, if you've been in church one day, you'll ace it. I'm like, well, matter of fact, been in church more days than one, so I think I'll do pretty good. Anyway,
I'm excited because I think there's you're going to be learning a lot over this next semester.
I'll be reading a lot of books.
A lot of books. My first class is that I'm taking is Theology of Christian Leadership. Super excited about that. My second class is Preaching on the Sacraments.
Ooh.
And I've been reading some interesting books along those lines, and it's blowing my mind. I'm thinking about things one, I haven't thought about in a long time, and two, I'm like, oh, I hadn't even thought about putting things in that kind of framework. So I'm really excited about that. Really excited about that.
So both of us are college students, university students.
University students. That's right. Three of the 4 Curtises.
Yeah, Mom's holding down the fort for us.
She is. She's making sure that there's plenty to put in our casserole dishes.
I was just actually about to say that. But like technically my first day or my first class is Intro to the Bible. It should be easy. I don't know. We'll see.
You'll have a chance. It'll be there'll be things that'll be familiar, and then but what it'll give you is, and this is what I imagine, is it'll give you a structure to walk through things that maybe you haven't experienced at that kind of pace in quite a while.
Or it's like, how do you read the Bible in like preparing for something? Like if I'm going to lead a Bible study, like how do you read the Bible in that lens?
Yeah.
Or like a not like a pastoral. I mean, sure. But then also, how do you also read the Bible in a personal lens?
Yeah.
Which I think for me, it's mostly been personal most of my life, where I haven't really had to teach or enter that arena.
Yeah.
Maybe I've like dipped a few times. But
well, you're doing it for this podcast a little bit.
A little bit.
Right.
We're just... I'm not even there.
What were you going to say?
No, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
What else? Anything else?
if you are willing to be obedient, God will provide good things.
Isaiah 119. Yeah.
Yep.
It's good. So you can
Follow,
share,
rate,
review this podcast. By doing that, you're going to help us get the traction and let others know.
We were not motivated by that. It was so sad.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, share, rate, review.
If you like well, I'm bringing the same energy you are bringing to sharing the podcast. Is that no?
Okay.
So glad you're getting a degree in marketing. You're going to crush it.
Thanks, Dad. That actually means
Through
more
the
than
roof.
That actually means more than you think.
It's going to be awesome. You can follow me on Instagram and X and Facebook. Just look up Milo Curtis. You can follow Olivia on Instagram by looking up olivia.curtis_28. Why is it _28?
That's the year I'm okay, there's so many Olivia's out there.
It's the year you graduate from college. Okay.
Maybe sooner. Who knows?
All right, if you want to get a hold of us, you can do that by emailing us at hello@thisresilientsoul.com. We're always looking at ways to deepen the quality and expand the impact of this podcast. In fact, I got a message this last week from somebody that said, hey, I was having trouble listening to some things, and I actually made some audio edits that evidently didn't work. So their feedback was really valuable. So we pay attention. We read that stuff. So feel free to provide that. We welcome the opportunity. Any last words?
Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thanks for listening.